Today, we're going to break down a really tough problem between the United States and Iran. We'll use a news article to help us understand this complicated story, and we'll go through it step by step to make it all very clear.
So where do we begin? Well, first, we'll look at what the US and Israel wanted in the beginning. Then we'll see how the fight got bigger and bigger. After that, we'll talk about a big change in plans, the two hard choices that followed. And finally, what the article says is the main point of all this.
Okay, so every story has a beginning, right? Let's look at what the United States and Israel were trying to do, before any of the fighting actually started.
So they had four really big goals. They wanted to stop Iran from making nuclear weapons and take away the special materials needed for that. They also wanted to stop Iran from helping other groups in the area, and they wanted to get rid of Iran's powerful missiles. Basically, the whole idea was to make Iran a lot less powerful.
But you know how plans go. They don't always work out. What started out as a clear plan quickly became something much, much bigger and way more dangerous. Let's see how that happened.
Now, this slide really shows you something important. It's like a pattern. One side does something, and then the other side hits back, but even harder. You can see it right here. The US attacks, then Iran attacks back. Israel attacks, and then Iran attacks back in a really big way. Each step just made the problem worse and worse.
So things were getting really, really serious. It looked like a huge war was about to start. But then, just when things were at their worst, something happened. Something nobody expected. And it changed everything. Yeah, according to the article we're looking at, President Trump realized that this whole thing, it was not going the way he wanted. The plan was not working, and the fight was getting out of control.
And then, a totally new problem popped up. A really big one that affected the whole world. Iran closed this place called the Strait of Hormuz. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's a super important path for ships carrying oil. So when it closed, it started causing money problems for lots of different countries.
This is where things got really intense. So President Trump made a huge threat. He said he would attack Iran's power plants, which give people electricity. But Iran, they didn't back down. They made an even bigger threat back, saying they would attack American money and important energy places. And faced with that, well, President Trump had to stop his attack. The article calls it a U-turn because he completely changed direction.
So that big U-turn, it left President Trump in a really tough spot. His threats didn't work, the fighting wasn't working, now he had to figure out what to do next, and he had only two choices.
And these two choices were complete opposites. I mean, you couldn't get more different. Option one was to talk, sit down with Iran, try to make a deal and end the war. But option two, it was to make the war much, much bigger. We're talking about sending in soldiers for a real ground war inside Iran.
And that second option, the big war, it wasn't just some idea they were thinking about. The article tells us something important. Thousands of US Marines were already on their way to the area. That made a ground war feel very, very real. Okay, so we followed this whole story, from the beginning goals, to the fighting getting bigger, and now to these two huge choices. So what does the writer of the article think is the best way out of this mess?
The writer of this article has a really strong opinion on this. They say that for any peace talks to happen, the US has to do something first. They have to rein in its partner, Israel, which means to control it. The article uses some very powerful words here, calling Israel an unhinged bully, to show just how strongly the writer feels that Israel's attacks are stopping any chance for peace.
So what's the big idea here? Well, the main message from the article is pretty clear. Fighting isn't the answer. The author believes that using the military has failed, and it has only made the situation worse. So, in the end, the article gives some simple advice. It's a three-step plan. Step 1, stop the fighting. Step 2, make a deal with Iran. And step 3, get out of the war. It's all about finding a peaceful way to solve the problem.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question to think about. When a fight can grow so fast, from having clear goals to being on the edge of a giant war, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is the true cost of war?